The men hitting the sand on D-Day are doing exactly what their survival instincts demand. They are staying low, crawling through the surf, and using the bodies of the fallen as human shields against the incoming fire. On the stretch of beach codenamed Sword, German MG-42s are raking the waterline until the waves turn a deep crimson. Every commando on that beach is trying to shrink, to disappear, and to become the smallest target possible. Then the ramp drops and one man walks off standing perfectly straight while playing the bagpipes. He isn't carrying a rifle to defend himself, and he's wearing a kilt instead of standard fatigues. He is easily the most visible person on the entire shoreline, giving the German snipers up on the bluffs a clear, unobstructed shot from the second his boots hit the water. But for some reason, they don't pull the trigger. This is 21-year-old Bill Millin, the personal piper to Lord Lovat, and his actions on this beach are about to do something incredible. He is going to keep an entire commando brigade moving forward when every other instinct tells them to stop. The real mystery isn't just why he decided to play, but why the music actually worked in the middle of a massacre. The night before the invasion begins, Lord Lovat gives Millin a very specific set of instructions. He is ordered to play from the ramp the moment the doors swing open, to keep playing as he hits the sand, and to never stop until the objective is met. Millin immediately pushes back because he knows the standing orders from the War Office. There was a strict regulation banning bagpipes in frontline combat, and it wasn't some obscure rule nobody followed. The military brass had decided that a piper playing music was a soldier who wasn't fighting, and they didn't think that trade-off was worth the risk to the unit. Millin reminds his commander of this rule, but Lovat isn't interested in following the book. Lovat simply tells him that the rule applies to the English War Office, and since they are both Scottish, it doesn't matter. That short exchange explains everything about how Lovat handles his men. The 1st Special Service Brigade isn't some standard infantry unit filled with green recruits. These are hand-selected commandos trained to move fast and think for themselves in chaotic conditions, where regular units would usually freeze up and wait for a radio signal. 12 of the men who hit that beach that morning can be named by record. Soldiers like Lance Corporal Roderick Ovenden and Private Sidney Smallman of No. 4 Commando, both killed in Normandy on June 6th. Every one of them followed the same survival logic. Stay low, stay armed, push forward. They were the standard the brigade was built on. But there was one man in that formation who broke every rule that kept the others alive, and he wasn't even carrying a rifle. Their mission on D-Day isn't to dig in and hold the beach, but rather to punch through the defenses and move 6 miles inland to reach Pegasus Bridge. The paratroopers at that bridge have been clinging to their position since their glider assault landed around midnight. They took heavy losses to seize the crossing, and they've been sitting in the dark for hours waiting for the sea forces to break through and find them. If Lovat's brigade gets pinned down on the sand, those paratroopers are essentially dead men walking. The German counterattack will hit the bridge long before the commandos arrive, and every inch of ground the airborne troops died for will be lost. Lovat knows he has to get his men off that beach immediately. But a shoreline under heavy fire is a psychological trap. There is no real cover, no direction feels safe, and the sheer volume of the noise is enough to paralyze even the bravest soldier. Every rational thought in your head is screaming at you to stay down and hide. Lovat gambles on the idea that the pipes can break that paralysis. The music isn't meant to drown out the machine guns, but it does something the gunfire can't by signaling that someone is still in command. Seeing a man standing upright and playing music in a kill zone sends a powerful message that the plan is still working. It tells the men that despite the chaos, they are still moving forward. That is exactly why Millin is there. By 8:20 a.m., nearly an hour after the first boots hit the sand, the commandos of the 1st Special Service Brigade are coming in on Queen Red at La Brèche, and the beach is already a wreck. The ramp drops into the surf and Millin steps off into water that reaches his chest. He holds the pipes high above his head to keep the drones dry, and the second his feet find the sand, he begins to play. The tune is Highland Laddie, a traditional Highland march, and the sound of the pipes rises over the roar of incoming fire as soon as he gets the bag pressurized. Men are dropping into the sand all around him, while machine gun fire sweeps the waterline in long, lethal arcs. The Commandos are moving in short, desperate rushes by throwing themselves flat and then scrambling forward again. But Millin does not run. He walks up the beach at a steady, rhythmic pace with his pipes at full volume, and the sight of him standing upright while everyone else dives for cover is almost impossible for the mind to process. Lovat comes ashore a few moments later and wades through the surf in a way that is entirely his own. He wears no helmet and carries a simple walking stick in one hand, looking completely unbothered by the mechanical slaughter happening on either side of him. The two of them together, with Lovat leaning on his stick and Millin marching with his pipes, become a fixed point for every commando struggling through the water. If those two men aren't running for their lives, the soldiers realize that the situation might not be as hopeless as it looks. Millin does not stay in one spot, but starts pacing back and forth along the length of the beach. At one point, Lovat calls out to him over the crashing mortar rounds and asks to hear "The Road to the Isles." Men are still being hit, and the beach is still being raked by gunfire. Yet Lovat requests a specific tune, as if he were sitting at a formal regimental dinner. Millin starts to play it. A shift begins to happen across the sand as commandos who were pinned down start to find their feet. Men who were hesitating at the edge of the water begin to push toward the dunes because the pipes are doing exactly what Lovat promised they would. They are signaling that the chaos is still under control, that the man in charge is calm, and that moving forward is the only thing left to do. The German snipers positioned in the bluffs have dozens of clean shots at Millin during this entire display, but they never pulled the trigger. After the war ended, several of those veterans explained exactly why they held their fire, but that answer is still a few miles down the road. The brigade finally clears the sea wall and starts moving inland, and Millin is still playing as they disappear into the countryside. 6 miles is a short distance on a map, but it feels like an eternity when you are moving through the Norman countryside in full kit while taking fire from hidden positions. The villages along this route have not been cleared of the enemy yet. German snipers are firing from upper floor windows and hedgerow lines, and mortar rounds are crashing into the column without a second of warning. Men are dying on this road the same way they died on the beach, falling suddenly and without any drama, and then they are simply gone. Millin keeps the music going. He is not some rear echelon figure walking in a protected corridor behind the lines. He is moving with the main column through the same tall grass and under the same constant fire. At one point during the march, a stray round grazes him, but he does not stop walking and the pipes do not drop. The column does not even slow down to check on him, because that is the tempo Lovat has set for the day, and Millin is the one responsible for holding it. At Pegasus Bridge, the paratroopers under Major John Howard have been fighting since long before the sun came up. They captured the bridge in the early hours of June 6 during a glider assault that dropped their aircraft within meters of the steel girders, and they have been holding it against constant German counterattacks ever since. By mid-morning, their supply of ammunition is running dangerously low, and every hour that passes without help gives the Germans more time to bring up heavy armor. Lovat had sent word to Howard that he would arrive by noon, but the clock has passed that mark and he is late. The paratroopers hear the sound of the pipes long before they see the first commando. The melody of blue bonnets over the border reaches the bridge while the relief column is still a half-mile down the road, and every man in the trenches knows exactly what that sound means. Help is no longer a vague promise for later in the afternoon. Help is only 2 minutes away. Howard's men have been holding on through pure nerve and momentum, and the pipes finally give them something solid to lean on. Lovat reaches the bridge and offers a brief apology to Howard for the delay, before the Commandos begin their crossing. Millin plays them across the span while the bridge is still under direct German observation and taking intermittent fire from positions that haven't been silenced. He walks across those planks the same way he walked up the beach, maintaining a steady pace and keeping his pipes at full volume while standing perfectly upright. It was only after the fighting stopped that the German snipers explained what they were thinking as they watched him through their scopes. Their logic was actually very simple. A man standing in the open playing bagpipes during a massive amphibious assault was either a decoy meant to draw their fire, or he was someone so completely insane that killing him served no military purpose. They calculated that he wasn't worth the price of a single bullet, and the rational military mind looked at Bill Millin and decided he didn't make sense as a target. What the snipers missed was that Millin made perfect sense, but he was operating in a framework they didn't understand. The pipes weren't just for show or theatre, they were load-bearing equipment. They carried the entire weight of the unit's morale across 2 miles of blood-soaked beach and 6 miles of enemy territory, and they did it by making one simple argument over and over again. As long as the piper is still standing, you can be too. That isn't a sign of madness. That is a weapon. Bill Millin lived to be 88 years old, and he returned to the shores of Normandy several times before he passed away. Today, a statue of him stands near Sword Beach that shows him with his bagpipes raised in mid-stride, and the bronze is frozen at the exact moment the landing ramp dropped into the surf. The Commandos who stayed low on that sand weren't wrong to do so, because they were following every survival rule they had ever been taught. Millin just understood something different about the nature of combat, and he realized that the most dangerous move you can make is often the one that looks completely out of place. Nothing cuts through the chaos of a beachhead like seeing proof that someone hasn't broken yet. For more deep dives into military history, make sure you're subscribed to the channel.